Now that the form and view functionality is in place, what we need to do is we need to actually start validating our form and authenticating users. First thing that we need to do, of course, is create a button in our form. So we're going to create a button. We'll give it a type attribute, which is submit. And then we'll just put the word login on the button. So if I refresh the page now, we should see that our form has a button at the end. And once we fill in our form, the form will actually now submit. So if I go ahead and submit the form, I now get a CSRF token missing error. So I need to pop that in at the top of my form. So what I do is I pop in this CSRF token, and this is a reference to a function. So we use the percent signs instead of the curly braces. Now if I go back to that URL again and type in my username and password, and then submit the form, the page is just refreshed and nothing happens. And the reason for this is because we're not doing any kind of logic on the back end. As we can see, if I go to the admin panel, I'm still logged out. So what we need to do is we need to implement a mechanism for actually authenticating a user. So inside of our login view, what I'm going to do is, for the moment, I'm just going to delete this code for our form. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if request.method is equal to post, and we need our post word in all caps. Then what we're going to do is we're going to create a login form, an instance of which is going to be an instance of the user login form, and we're going to pass in the request dot post as our constructor. So a new login form will be created with the data posted from the form on the UI. Otherwise, we're just going to create an empty object. We're going to say login form is equal to user login form, and leave it at that. Now, because there is data coming back in the post, we need to check see if the data is valid. So if we say if login form is valid, and that's a method, so we'll put a parentheses at the end. We'll say user is equal to auth.authenticate, and we're going to pass in a username. So we say request equals user.post, and then we have a dictionary, so we're just going to say username to retrieve the username from the post dictionary. And we're going to do the same thing for the password. So we're going to say password is equal to request.post, and then we'll use the password key to retrieve the password from the dictionary. And this will authenticate the user. This will tell us whether or not this user has provided the correct username and login, or username and password. But it won't actually log the user in just yet. So what we want to do then is we want to present the user with a message to say messages.success, and we pass in the request, and the string that we want to present to the user is you have successfully logged in. So then our authenticate function will return true or false or will return a user object. So if we have a user, then we'll log them in. Else we'll return an error. So it's a login form dot add error, and we're going to say none. So this will just display it on the form as opposed to a specific input. We'll just say your username and password is incorrect. So we can go ahead and save that. Let's pop in a Django message here, which will display our if our message if user is successfully logged in. So once again, same as last time, we'll just do if messages end for or end if, and then inside of that we'll create a new div, and inside of that div then we'll say for message in messages. And once we have that for in place, we'll just put in our end for. And inside there, then we'll just pop in the message value. And we can go ahead and save that then and head over to head back to our browser. So if we go over to accounts, let's go back to the home, and then we can just go to login from there. So if I type in my username and password now, I should be able to log in. We can see we have 2 login messages here. Let's get rid of, yes, we have the first one up there already. So let's go ahead, we'll get rid of the second one here. So let's go to that URL again. And then we will go to the admin panel, and we can see that we are actually now logged in. Which means that we can now also log out. So if we go to accounts/logout, then we can see that we've successfully been logged out. If we log in again, and if I type in some invalid information here, then we get an error. Well, it says you successfully logged in, even though we haven't. So let's fix that now. Okay. So this message should only display if inside of our if user if statement after the auth.login. There we go. So if we go back to this URL now and I type in the same information, we can still see that your username or password is incorrect. And if I rectify this then and put in correct information, then the error message disappears and we've successfully logged in.